Welcome to People Like You. It is my absolute privilege to sit next to today's guest. Mary Ann Cole is the wife and ministry partner of one of the icons of ministry, Glenn D. Cole. Her life changed unexpectedly on February 14th, 2012, when Pastor Cole passed into eternity as he arrived to his church campus. Mary Ann's story of helping widowed and single women through difficult seasons of their lives is the topic of today's program. You won't want to go away.
I couldn't be angry at God. I couldn't not accept what had happened. It just had happened, and I knew I had to turn that way.
Welcome back. Mary Ann Cole is the founder and director of Solo Women's Connection at Capital Christian Center in Sacramento, California. I'm privileged to talk to her today about her personal journey and the ministry she now leads. I thank you so much for being here with us today.
This is a privilege. Thank you for inviting me.
You were married to Reverend Glenn Cole for 58 years. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your husband and your family.
Yes, my husband. He was a God-called man, and he never lost that calling. He knew what he was called to do, and he did it with everything, with gusto, with everything within him, and that was to bring people to Jesus. He loved people.
Yes.
And the interesting thing to me was, if I read some notes or that someone had written, they felt that
yes.
love when he was in that pulpit.
Yes.
And it was just like supernatural, but it was spiritual, it was alive, it was real, it was true.
And he had a way of pointing out things we needed to maybe work on in a way that was easy to understand and to take in and accept.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your family.
Yes, we have the two sons, and one followed us when we resigned from the pastorate, and he has now been the pastor for longer than we were, 21 years.
21 years, and that's Rick.
Yes.
Yes.
And you knew him as a youth pastor.
I knew him as a youth pastor. Now, that was many, many years ago. Yes. I know there are people all over the country that are going to enjoy this program and catching up with you, Mary Ann, because so many of us had just appreciated Pastor Glenn over the years, his heart for people and his desire to serve. But what was your conversation like with him? What was your relationship like?
The nice thing was that all the invitations that he accepted, which were many outside of the church even, 60th wedding anniversaries or birthdays, people's personal life. He loved doing weddings and funerals, but he always wanted me with him, and that was a nice feeling that he liked me to go with him when he went places. Took us to Israel for myself 15 times. I think he went 16 times, but we were able to bring people there, and that was a special enjoyment. Last two Sundays, someone has brought me a picture from when they went to Israel, and one man who lost his wife showed me Rick baptizing her in the River Jordan, and she particularly had a fondness for him, so he just wanted to share that with me.
Aww.
And then the other one was of a couple that just loved the pastor and wanted to go with us to have that experience.
So even the memories are even ever present now, and all the ministry that you were involved in together.
Yes.
You were inseparable, basically.
Yes, and God was so good because I have had the strength and the health to keep up as much as possible.
Okay, so let's go to that day, February 14th of 2012, if you're okay with this.
Yes,
let's go to that day. What was it like that morning before Brother Glenn left the house?
Oh, I remember I went back to see if he was ready to go, because I never picked out anything for him to wear. He did that privately on his own.
He was good.
But he always looked good and,
Yes, he
and
did.
well-groomed.
Yes, he did.
From the time I met him in Bible school.
That was him.
And that morning, he was just about ready to go out the door. We just had a little chit-chat, and we got in the kitchen, and I thought, oh, he's leaving at 8:45. He'll get to the church at 9 o'clock. We had taken on a kind of a 3-year promise to a church to pastor, and so I just knew at the clock, oh, he'll get there.
He'll get there about 9.
And at 10 o'clock, I'm still in my neck clothes, and someone calls me from the church to say that he was in the ambulance being taken to the hospital, that he had not gotten out of his car, and so he'd been sitting in that car for a good hour probably, and had gone into his spot. It said Glenn Cole, and he turned the engine off and undid the seat belt.
And passed.
And that quick, our life can be over, and we are at our goal, the place that we are promised. The ambulance man said he never saw anyone die with a heart thing and have a smile on their face.
On their face. Wow.
So that was quite, I was in a fog. I was in a shock for quite a while.
And the Lord has been good, and we're going to talk more when we come back and find out how the Lord has taken your life now and headed you in a different direction,
right,
amidst some of the absolute worst circumstances one person can face. So, more with Mary Ann Cole when we return, so don't go away.
I kept praying, and the fact that I love God and I trust God, and I just know that His ways and His timing is different than mine.
Welcome back. We're with Mary Ann Cole. You know, I knew almost immediately myself because a relative was on campus at that church. And from that perspective, they had expected Reverend Cole to be there. He was never late. He was always at the church. And when he didn't walk through the door, they began to look for him on campus, and they found him in the car. So, Mary Ann, when we heard the news, we began praying immediately for you and your family and people all over the world because of our love for him and you. And how were the days and weeks following? How was that for you?
Well, thank you. I know that was self-sustaining for me. It took a while to grasp everything, and the first thing I knew was that I needed to go back to Capital Christian Center, where our longest ministry had been.
Yes.
And I had my good friends and wonderful people that knew us both.
Yes.
And it would be the place for me to go. After all, my family is all on the staff there.
Yes.
Both my sons, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter, and let's see how many.
It's family.
Grandson, yes. They're all very involved in that ministry. And my two boys, who are only 18 months apart in age, they both were trying to find me a place to move back to that side of town because I was clear out of the way of the church and their homes. And so I kept praying, and the fact that I love God and I trust God, and I just know that His ways and His timing is different than mine.
Yeah.
But He is the one that does things right. And so I couldn't be angry at God. I couldn't not accept what had happened. It just had happened, and I knew I had to turn that way. And when I did, God just led me. He did literally take my hand, I felt like.
Wow.
And that verse in Isaiah 41:13 that says, "Do not be afraid.
Wow.
I will take you by the right hand and show you the way in which you should go." And it's so wonderful to just take those verses personally and trust God that way.
Yeah.
Because His Word, it's alive, it's powerful, it's
Yeah.
true, and it's our
Yeah.
it keeps us strong on our feet and growing,
Yeah.
breathing,
Wow.
even breathing, yes. And so
Because
thank
prior
God.
to this, you would have done that with Glenn. It would have been the two of you
Yes, we
against the
always
world.
read the Bible and prayed together
Always.
at
And now it's you.
night. Yes. And that he was the strong person that took care of me so well that I've had a lot of stretching to do, but I'm not afraid. And God has been there for me. He really has.
Right. So you find yourself back at Capital Christian Center in Sunday school.
Yes, seniors class. I would go to the 9 o'clock church and then to the seniors class, and I had 3 other ladies that we would go to lunch together, and I so looked forward to it all week long.
Yes.
From being alone a lot to that fellowship, it was rich, and then as the time went on, I'm like into the 3rd year of being alone, and I'm looking at other women and I'm thinking, we should invite so-and-so to go with us. So we started doing that, inviting another person now and then to go to lunch with us. And I knew who these widows were. I knew what kind of people they were. And
Wow.
I needed help because God had laid something on my heart. And a lady was doing a seminar and challenged the women's group that day. Has God given you a dream or an idea?
Uh-oh.
And I thought, I know it. What he's put in my heart is to draw some of these widows together.
So she was talking
not
to
just
you.
widows. Yeah, she was. But not just widows. There are divorcees. There are single gals that never married that are taking care of first grandparents and then their parents who are now in their 90s.
That are looking for someone to commune with, to talk with,
yeah,
to
a
do
place.
life with.
Yeah, and I love people just like my husband does. I have a love, but I couldn't express it every week to people like he could. But this is in my heart too.
So this lady, basically, Marianne, challenges you.
Yes.
She says there's people here that the Lord has laid something on their heart. Is that what she said? Something like
dream.
that? A dream.
You have a dream and something in the future that you'd like to see.
And so you're sitting there struggling with, do I say something or do I not?
Yes, because she suggested we, stand up and tell. And I don't know how I had the nerve, but I had this thought, and it was strong. If I say something, I'm going to have to do something.
Oh my gosh, hold that thought, because I'm not sure if I would do what you did next after that thought. More with Marianne Cole when we return.
I wasn't even thinking about my age. I'm thinking, what was I thinking, really, to try this at this age and stage in my life?
Welcome back. You have me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, if I say something, I have to do something.
I knew I'd be committed. And that was good for me because the next thought was, I'm a procrastinator. If I don't do it,
Yes.
I may never go ahead.
Yes.
I don't know how I did it, but I raised my hand and I got up and I went down front and I told it what God had been speaking to me about, to have a place where we could connect.
Yeah.
The women who need each other. Women need each other.
Yeah.
We give each other strength and worth. It's amazing. And it's too easy to hibernate.
Isolate.
And isolate when you're alone, even to come to church.
Yes.
And in a
Yes.
big body, you don't know people, and so you can be more hesitant and more, you know, like a hermit.
Hermit. No, I understand.
And so I told it, and I thought, now I've got to figure out how we're going to do it, but I can't do it alone.
Yes.
I
So
went
smart.
to the top first and asked my husband.
You're
Every time
I know.
think of the pastor of the church, I think of Glenn still.
And
but
there's nothing wrong with that.
I
But you
went to my boy. And he was surprised, but he liked the idea.
Good.
And so I thought, okay, I've got to get some help. And I knew the first person I was going to ask because I had gotten acquainted well by going to lunch during that first period of widowhood with these people regularly. And I told her what I was thinking, and she said, I'm with you on board with that. I was so surprised because I thought she'd have to weigh that idea. But you know what? She had already been praying for something that she could serve in that would still allow her top priority of being with her great-grandchildren and family. So then I think of another lady, and she'd be coming right up the walkway into the front doors of the church, and I speak to her. Yes, I'd like to be involved in that. I'd speak to another lady, and you know what I ended up with? 10 women.
Oh my God.
10 women. That's how I knew I needed help.
So they have joined with you on Solo Women's Connection.
Yes, they were my committee. But now one moved away, so there are 9 of us. And we all have different giftings. For 2 years now, we have met together to pray every month and to plan for the next Solo Connection luncheon. It ended up, every church is going to have to do it when and how they can. But this is a big body, and they've been to church, they've been to seniors class. Then during third service, we are in the chapel around round tables, nice decorations, and a lunch is brought in, a catered lunch brought in.
My goodness.
It's just the way we had to go toward, you know, now out of that, 2 women that came from another church in town are doing it at their church. I don't know how, when, or if it's evening, noon, or night, but to catch people that are spread out when they're already on campus, it seemed like a good plan for us.
Very large campus.
Yes.
So very difficult to do is get them all together. Are you seeing lives change? Are you seeing women affected?
Yes.
You have to be. I see the smile on your face.
Yes, we do. We see them getting to know each other. That's one
huge
major goal. And
healing.
Yes, the healing comes, you know, when you're living alone, you don't do much cooking, you don't fix a good lunch and sit down and enjoy so to have a beautiful spread of lovely food that a dear lady in the church is a caterer. She makes it so special. And another lady on the committee made the decorations. We have them now for monthly themes. And we have lovely greeters. They are helping these people that come in that are new. Like 1 minute, we may have 5 to 7 new people show up, and their
stories will be mixed. Some recently widowed.
Yes.
Some just looking for some
just heard
companionship
about it,
and heard about it. Yeah.
Right. And one of our gals is such an evangelist. She's always asking people, "Are you married, or would you be interested in our senior, our
women's program, Women's Connection.
So it has been so rewarding. I can't tell you. We say that we are offering fun, food, and fellowship, but it's all Christ-centered.
Yes.
And when I think about fun, sometimes we're not laughing too much, and we can get depressed.
Yes.
That's a bad place to enter and,
yes.
and stay.
Yes.
Because it's hard to get out of. And so we're lifting spirits, and we're fun, food, and fellowship.
Can anyone come? People, if anybody's watching right now, they can find information on the web.
We'd love to have them
I can
come.
tell you would love to have them come.
Yes, we would. We love to have visitors, and we have ability to stretch usually, and have enough food if we even don't know they're coming. Although it's nice to know ahead. Just call the church number.
And you would encourage other churches and women to get involved in this in their own churches, right?
Yes.
To make that step forward. I mean, if you would, Mary Ann, if you wouldn't have gotten up, look at all the women that would not have received.
And even now, I think, I wasn't even thinking about my age. I'm thinking, what was I thinking, really, to try this at this age and stage in my life? But it has given me a ministry that is fulfilling me, and our committee has meshed together, and we know each other now much more
better.
Intimately.
And you're strong.
Much more truly than we ever did before.
And maybe you weren't thinking, but you were trusting.
Yes.
You were trusting. Thank you for being with us. Will you come again and update us?
Okay.
Please come again, will you? For more information about Solo Women's Connection, or to get in touch with Mary Ann Cole, go to capitalonline.cc or ktln.tv. Remember that KTLN is a donor-supported ministries, and programs like this one are made possible through your support. Thanks for being with us, and I hope you'll join us again next week.